My family, they were tripping over themselves trying to make up for what they called true daughter syndrome. They even cooked up some fake medical records, telling the world I was seriously ill. All this to hand over everything that was rightfully mine to her. I just took it, kept my mouth shut. At the press conference, my dad announced my illness, and I suddenly coughed up blood. Talk about dramatic. Afterward, they were all patting me on the head, saying how understanding I was. Even Holden, who'd been giving me the cold shoulder for weeks, actually spoke to me. See, that's the right attitude. Sierra was out in the cold for years, and you got to enjoy her privileges. It's only right you help us make it up to her. I just managed a weak smile. What he didn't know was I was actually sick, and I really was about to check out. Before I went, I wanted to meet my real parents. According to Sierra, they were these total deadbeat, sexist parents who bailed on her, leaving her to rot in an orphanage so they could go off and live the good life. Me? I'm from Missouri. Gotta see it to believe it. So I got someone to look into finding them. Sierra found out and freaked, smashing my phone. She was all tears and snot, her nose red. You're trying to dredge up the people who hurt me? Are you deliberately trying to make me miserable? How can you be so selfish? I wanted to argue, but my insides were twisting, and all I could manage was a sad smile. She got her happy family reunion. What about mine? I was dying. Couldn't I even get this one thing? I just about managed to lift my eyelids and look at her. I've given back everything. This is all I ask. Before the words were even out of my mouth, she slapped me hard across the face. You're unbelievable. You don't get to make demands. You were Miswa for 23 years. Because of you, I was out there suffering, getting bullied. Because of you, I missed out on 23 years of mom and dad. That stuff was mine to begin with. You giving it back is the least you can do. You can never repay what you owe me. The slap made my head ring, and I could barely hear her. Even my vision was blurring. Was this it? Was I actually going to die right here? When I finally opened my eyes again, the clock on the wall had gone around twice. Sierra was gone, but someone was sitting by my bed. The familiar scent of gardenias. That was Mom's scent. It was Mom. Ever since Sierra showed up, I hadn't seen Mom in ages. I forced my eyes open, trying to read her expression. Apathy, mixed with disappointment, and a tiny bit of concern she was trying to hide. She looked at my face and asked, Sierra hit you, didn't she? I didn't say anything. She sighed. Can't really blame her. You went too far trying to find those two losers. You know that's just stirring up trouble. I said. Sierra was rescued from the earthquake rubble when she was 5. After she was sent to the orphanage, she wasn't abandoned. That's just what you think. Sierra said she saw them leaving her behind, getting on a rescue vehicle and driving off. She chased them, but they didn't stop. Before that, they were always hitting her, yelling at her because she wasn't a boy. That earthquake? It was the perfect excuse for them to ditch their kid. Why would you even want to find people like that? I clutched the jade pendant in my hand, my eyes stubborn. If you're here visiting me, she'll be upset. Mom's expression flickered. She frowned. Not this time. I'm taking you to her movie launch party. Wind rushed past my ears and I closed my eyes. Can't I skip it? Mom blurted out. No way. You have so many fans. They all know how hard you worked on this movie. If you don't show up, they'll say Sierra bought her way in and stole your role. I didn't have the energy to resist. Mom shoved me into a wheelchair and wheeled me out. The place was packed. 90% were my fans. They were holding up signs with my name, wishing me a speedy recovery. Everyone was crying. I wanted to cry too. I didn't want to die. I didn't want to lose them. I wanted to act in so many more movies for them. Mom leaned down and whispered in my ear, cough up some blood. Make them believe you're really sick. Go on, I gave you that blood capsule candy earlier. Bite into it. A wave of suppressed pain rushed over me. My vision filled with red. Everyone gasped. Mom took the opportunity to whisk me away. This way, she could shut down rumors about me faking my illness and not steal Sierra's thunder. Just before I passed out, I heard Mom's confused voice. This blood capsule is pretty realistic. Smells just like the real thing. The jade pendant was stained with blood, and I got my agent, Macy, to clean it. Sierra threw this pendant at me the day she came back. It had 4 words carved on it. Peace and joy. And at the bottom, in tiny script, was the signature. Mom, Ning. Sierra said it was some cheap trinket my real parents bought for her, but I could smell the faint scent of gardenias on it. I could almost see a gentle woman carefully polishing this delicate pendant. Macy squeezed my hand, her eyes red. Listen to me. Let's get you more treatment. I swallowed the metallic tang in my mouth and asked, is 7 days enough? I'm afraid I only have 7 days left. She blinked back tears and shook her head. It's not enough. You just hold on. You know I don't have much talent. If I hadn't met a talented actress like you, I wouldn't have become a top agent. Finding people isn't my thing. You have to live a long life so I can find them slowly and bring them to your side. Don't waste your energy. I've already pulled back everyone you hired. Holden walked in, expressionless. He still had some confetti on his black overcoat, so he must have come straight from the launch party. Macy bristled. Mr. Holden, that's a low blow. I'm spending my money to hire people to do a job. What right do you have to stop me? Just because your family is powerful doesn't mean you can bully people like this. He just gave her a cold look and ignored her. After scanning me up and down, the light in his eyes softened a bit. Your acting is good. You can stay in character even when the cameras aren't rolling. He crouched down, his long fingers caressing my face. The longing in his eyes intensified. You've lost weight. It must have been hard for you. Take a year off. Once Sierra settles down, I'll help you get back on top of your game. In the meantime, just think of it as playing a terminally ill patient. Just keep acting. I stared at the man I'd known since I was a kid and felt a strange ache in my chest. I really did love him. He always wanted to protect me, but I was fiercely independent and never asked him for anything. But now I had to make an exception. Holden, I want to meet my real parents. I didn't realize I was crying until he wiped the tears away with both hands. I can help you find them, but you have to promise me something. He paused for a few seconds watching me, then hesitantly said, Sierra wants to marry me too. The psychologist said it's an impulse driven by a fear of loss. After discussing it with your family, we decided to indulge her. We'll have a wedding. After she gets better, I'll divorce her and marry you. I've already prepared most of our wedding. I just have to change the bride's name. You're always reasonable. You won't make things difficult for me, right? I blinked, feeling a little hazy. If I don't agree, you won't let me find my parents? He didn't deny it. I was disappointed and wanted to lash out, but I knew I didn't have much time left. I didn't want to waste it on this meaningless drama. I might as well use his power to fulfill my last dream. Okay, but you have to find them within 7 days. He smiled and kissed my lips. I knew you were the best. I smiled sadly. Anyway, it's hers to begin with. Give it back, and there'll be no hard feelings. He frowned. I don't have an opinion on the Hua family stuff, but I'll always be yours. Holden wants to marry only you, Hua. I'd been hearing that since middle school. I used to believe it. Not anymore. I never thought I'd be afraid to open my eyes. I was afraid I'd open them and see only darkness. I was jerked back to reality when something shattered glass. The house was in chaos for 10 minutes before I was dragged into the living room. The whole family was there. Holden was there too. The butler walked in and reported. I found out that it was Sierra's fans. They were misled by rumors online and thought Miss Hua cheated on Holden and came to deliver justice. Uncle Butler had watched me grow up. He always cared about me. After looking at me, he continued. I also found that these messages were sent from Sierra's account. In the stifling silence, everyone turned to look at Sierra with questioning eyes. Sierra bit her lip. Dad spoke first. It must be some black fan who hacked into Sierra's account. Sierra interrupted him, her expression high and mighty. I did it. I spread the news. Why shouldn't I? Her fans were calling me a homewrecker. I was just returning the favor. I didn't have the energy to argue with her, but I couldn't help saying, they were right. Sierra stood up and glared at me. I'm a homewrecker? If you hadn't taken my place, it would be me marrying Holden. The Hua and Holden families aren't childhood sweethearts. I reminded her. She had no response. She pursed her lips, her face red, and soon tears started to fall. Mom put her arms around her and comforted her, then turned to me and said, it's done now, there's no other way. If we don't say this, everyone will call Sierra a homewrecker. It's better if everyone thinks you cheated first. Yeah, if I cheated, then Holden breaking up with me and marrying a new bride would be a welcome, satisfying plot twist. Mom looked at me with a hint of pity but said, for now, we need to focus on Sierra. Hua, I'm sorry, but you'll have to suffer a little. Dad sighed. Compared to Sierra's suffering in the past, this is nothing. Let them say what they want. We'll protect you. You don't have to be afraid of being hit, right? Suddenly I coughed. I coughed badly. My pale face coughed up a little blood, giving me a morbid look, like a final burst of energy before death. Holden stared at me, his brow furrowed. At this moment, Sierra completely blocked me, coldly looking down at me. Still faking it, huh? You think you can cough twice and the whole family will indulge you? Let me tell you, it doesn't look real at all. I'll show you what real pain looks like. A breeze blew through the room, and I vaguely saw her pull down her clothes, revealing a large patch of skin on her back. It was covered in densely intertwined old scars. Everyone gasped and surrounded her. With tears in her eyes, she pointed in a certain direction and accused, those pigs treated me like a slave. They would hit and yell at me for any small reason. I was barely 5 years old. I had to wash their clothes by hand, mop the floor, and wash the dishes every day. If I rested for a moment, they'd whip me on my back. And your real mom? She called me a prostitute. She said I was dirtier than a rag. But what were you doing then? You were living in my house, eating my food, sleeping in my big bed, living like a princess. I gripped the jade pendant in my hand and stared at her intently. That's just your side of the story. There's no evidence. Enough? Hugo. Holden stood up, thoughtfully pulled Sierra's clothes back up, and wiped away her tears. Cheating might be unpleasant, but it's the fastest solution. Hua, you'll issue a statement later. Admit your mistakes and bless us. That will quickly quell the controversy. His eyes were dark and enigmatic, like the time he threatened me with my parents' news. Just the other day. I understood. I didn't have much time left. I could only nod. Macy helped me write the statement. She sent it out while crying, cursing Holden and my family. Afterward, she buried herself in battling the flood of hateful comments. I silently edited a post on my small account to be posted in 7 days, and attached a recording. I wrote a long caption but deleted it all, leaving only one sentence. To everyone who likes me, I love you. See you in the next life. At 4 in the morning, Holden insisted on driving me to the airport. There might be paparazzi outside, so I won't get out. You guys go in, be careful. Macy rolled her eyes and helped me get out. I stared at his profile. Memories of our time together flashed before my eyes. I asked him, is it snowing at Changbai Mountain? His eyes flickered, his thin lips slightly pursed. We can't go this year. I'll take you after I divorce Sierra. I smiled. Too bad. You begged me for 5 years and I never went. Now that I want to go, you don't want to anymore. Holden, such a cold man on the outside, was actually an extreme romantic at heart. Sometimes he was like a little girl and wanted to see the snow. He gripped the steering wheel and looked down in thought. I turned to get out of the car, but he grabbed my wrist. Don't be like this, Hua. We have a lot of time. There'll be plenty of opportunities in the future. Don't blame Sierra. You'll understand her when you go and see your real parents. Seeing that I didn't respond, he sighed. Sierra suffered because of me. If I hadn't been playing around that year and switched your name tags by mistake, you wouldn't have been switched at birth. I smiled sadly. Yes, even you know it's your fault, but everyone blames me. He slowly let go of my hand, his eyes becoming indifferent. It's getting late, you guys should go in. I'll pick you up in 3 days. Macy's tears fell on the back of my hand. I didn't answer or turn back. I walked further and further away from him,